There we go.
Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year. It's 2023. We're very excited to go into another year of our Let's Talk activities. My name is George Ferrari, and I serve as CEO of your community foundation here in Tompkins County. Very happy that you're here with us today for an extended special Let's Talk as we launch into 2023. Gloria Kwaku is our Chief Inclusion and Community Engagement Officer. She is here with you, and she's the producer of our Let's Talks. We have previous Let's Talk videos and PowerPoints on our website, and we're also developing a new calendar in 2023. We're going to offer about 6 of these rather than 12, so a little bit different in our scheduling for 2023. But today we have the good folks from Choice Words Ithaca here to talk about grant writing. And I know there's been a lot of interest and a lot of support for encouraging mission-driven organizations to develop your capacity to write grants that are effective and impactful, and a recognition that this is a skill we can learn in community with each other and that can advance collaboration as well. So we will have today, our time together is until 1 o'clock. Ask you to come and join as you're able. You can always put questions in the chat box, and once presentation is over, we'll have Gloria managing those questions as well. And if there's a burning question you want to come off your mic and ask it, you can do that as well. So I'm happy that you're here with us, and I'm very happy we have 3 good folks here from Choice Words Ithaca: Amanda, Brianna, and Steve. And we'll turn it over to you right now. I'll turn it to Gloria first, and then to the presenters. Gloria, it's all yours.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today and seeing all of your beautiful faces. So many familiar faces that I'm seeing on this call, seeing lots of applicants from the fall, seeing lots of close friends. I am just really excited to be here with you this morning. My name is Gloria Kwaku. I'm the Chief Inclusion and Community Engagement Officer here at the Community Foundation. Most of you know me in my role as the grant cycle person. We recently closed out our fall grant cycle, resulting in, let me pull this up here. Can everyone see that graphic?
Wow.
Yes?
Yeah, you're good.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we recently closed out our fall grant cycle, resulting in 88 grants made to 44 organizations, 44 of you wonderful organizations out there, for a total of $310,987. 85% of our applications received funding, whether it was partial or full. 65% of applications received funding above 50% of their ask. So 50% or more of their request. The fall was definitely an experience for both myself coming into this new role, and for our new applicants, adjusting to my tweaks and my acumen and my 5 million communications that came through via email. Janet, who handled the grant cycles before me, with some really big shoes to fill. But we got through it with your support as amazing mission-driven organizations, and support from our staff, from leadership from George, and also from our very robust review teams. So the number one recommendation that came directly from our review team members was that we at the foundation should provide grant writing support to our applicants. That was really, really evident as we were reading the applications. Now, all of the applications submitted to us, they were all moving, and they all told really great stories, but there are always ways to improve your writing style and kind of beef up your content so that it's relevant, especially to the questions that we ask. I wanted to tell you that our library grant cycle is open. It's currently open and it's live, and it's open to all the members of the library, the Finger Lakes Library System. Is that correct, George? Is it only?
That's correct. That's a particular grant cycle we do in the early part of the year, and the donor created a designation. The eligible applicants are the 33 public libraries in the 5 county Finger Lakes Library System.
Got it. And that will be led not by me, but by Suzanne Smith-Jablonski, who is our library's professional. Applications are due February 22nd. So our Resilient Communities Spring Grant Cycle will open in the beginning of March, and the applications will be due on April 5th. And I will, of course, host our info session /Q&A on March 1st. And all this information will be available on our website. We'll also have another one of these grant help style workshops prior to our fall grant cycle, which is set to go live in the beginning of September. With the exception of our library grant cycle, applications will now be processed in our new grants management platform, with the hopes of a smoother, more efficient, and user-friendly process. Some of you really, really hate community force, and we know. So hopefully, when you apply for the spring and fall, it'll be much, much smoother. I'm so happy to introduce Amanda and her team today for this incredible workshop. I'm happy to say that Amanda was one of our grant review team members, yay. And I'm hoping that she'll return in the spring. So without hearing any more from me, I'm gonna just hand it over to Amanda. So Amanda, take it away.
Thank you so much, Gloria, and thank you everyone for coming. We are so happy to be here to talk a little bit about grants and how we might be able to help you and your organizations. I'm here with Steve Densmore, who is the president of ChoiceWords, and Brianna Maloney, who is the vice president of ChoiceWords. So we're going to just talk a little bit about the organization that we're here to represent today, and then kind of get into a little bit about Grants 101, and then we'll open it up for Q&A at the end. And I know that some questions came in beforehand, and we have pretty much addressed them all in the presentation, but after, if it feels like we haven't, you are more than welcome to just bring it up again to our attention. And I'll hand it over to Steve to start us off.
Hi, folks. I'm Steve Densmore, and thank you, Amanda. Appreciate the introduction. We're just so happy and pleased to be here, and appreciate the gracious, outreach provided by Gloria and her tremendous work in setting this up, and certainly George and the work that you do at the Community Foundations of Tompkins County. 44 grant awards is a very impactful number. It's a lot of wins for a lot of great causes and charities that need the funding. We know that there's a desperate need for funding among the charitable community, and we are here to help in any way possible. And one of the things we hope to bring to this is a better understanding of what makes a winning application and a sustainable grants program. We like to do this sort of work with the nonprofit community wherever possible, to help them become more sustainable, because it's important work you all do. We started, Brianna and I founded ChoiceWords 12 years ago as kind of a two-person team, following the successful effort to build the walkway over the Hudson State Historic Park. And so far, we've recognized a tremendous need in the community for support for nonprofits, for support for business, universities, educational institutions, and municipalities. So we've really grown into a firm that handles all of those sorts of grants applications, and we've been thriving because we are getting pretty good at what we do and supporting you all in your community efforts. And so about several months ago, we decided to launch our westward expansion. Along with Amanda moving to Ithaca, we decided to open the Ithaca branch of ChoiceWords, and she's been going great guns, doing amazing things, a lot of outreach, and this is part of that. So we are so appreciative of being welcome to your community, and we're happy to help in any way possible. And I want to introduce my co-founder, Brianna Maloney, for a few words, and then we'll launch into the presentation. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brianna Maloney, Vice President. Thank you, Steve, for that thorough introduction. I don't have much to add other than I started camping in Ithaca a few years ago at the Robert Tremaine State Park and really fell in love with the area. So I'm excited. I'm actually going to be coming up there next week for the ribbon cutting and a different workshop, and I'm really excited to spend some more time there. So it's nice to see you all today, and I'm glad that we can have this opportunity.
Take it away, Amanda.
Hi, everybody. I know some of you, but I'm the grants manager at ChoiceWords Ithaca. And as Steve mentioned, I moved here in July and for personal reasons, but I knew about Ithaca because of my teaching role in the Cornell Small Farms program. So this was such a great opportunity to come here, and the ability to actually help launch ChoiceWords Ithaca has been such a blessing because I get to really embed myself in the community, and it's been amazing to get to know all of you. So thank you so much, and thank you for attending today. And I think we can, unless Steve, you have anything else to say, I think we can go to the next slide.
Absolutely.
So why we're here. So we're here to build community. Ithaca has been so welcoming. They've welcomed us with open arms, and we want to contribute to the health and well-being of this beautiful community. We also want to become a resource for mission-driven organizations, for municipalities and educational institutions to help everyone meet their fundraising goals. And ChoiceWords Hudson Valley has won over 110 million for the community, and we're really ready to do the same here. So if you go to the next slide, Gloria, thank you. So this is what we've done in the Hudson Valley. So these are just some of the organizations we've worked with, some of which have been with ChoiceWords since the beginning, when they first started, when Brianna and Steve first started the organization. You'll notice Walkway Over the Hudson on the right there that Steve mentioned. So we work with a wide range of organizations, from farms to state parks, youth education centers, and organizations that really provide essential services that contribute to the health of the community. You can go to the next slide, Gloria. Thank you. And in 2019, ChoiceWords launched a grants program for the small and emerging nonprofits. And this is so near and dear to my heart. I love this program so much. I helped spearhead the development of it. And it's for budding organizations with operating budgets under $100,000. So really people who are just starting out into the nonprofit world. And so the program assists small nonprofits with the development of an effective grants program by identifying funding opportunities and language and budgets for pursuing their fundraising goals. So these are just some of the organizations we've worked with, and the program continues to grow continuously. And so to the next slide. So I mentioned a grants program. And so some of you might be wondering, what's a grants program and what exactly makes a grants program sustainable? So a main component of a sustainable grants program is research, which Brianna will get into more in a little bit in the following slides. And there are several research portals that you can access to help guide you in your search. And Brianna will clue you in on all of those. We also feel that it's beneficial for organizations to always be grant writing so that there is a constant stream of funds coming in. And one thing Steve always says that I really like that he says that a sustainable grants program is like a three-legged stool. So basically you want to have multiple things going on, a multifaceted approach that can include a mix of individual donations, events, memberships, and grants. So basically there's always many streams holding the stool up so that it's very balanced. Okay, can go to the next slide, Gloria. Thank you. So how do you create a grants program? So figuring out what you need funding for is pretty much the main thing. So identifying what your wants are and what your needs are, because those can be two very different things, so that you can prioritize what is most important to seek funding for. So there's constantly new opportunities popping up, and that goes back to why research is really key. And an important aspect of a grants program is to identify your fundraising goals and priorities so that you can align with funders that really suit your needs. So you're not really chasing money. We never really, we never promote doing that. You really want to make sure it all suits what you're doing. Also, identifying a point person who will be applying for funding. So this could be someone on your board, this could be a volunteer, or it could just be one team member who's like really interested in, you know, writing and applying for grants for you. It's important because there's often many aspects of a grant application, and it's usually best held by one person so that all information is aligned across the board. And then creating a submission schedule. So once you do the research to identify the opportunities you'd like to seek, you want to create a submission schedule. And this could be just like a simple Excel sheet. It doesn't have to be anything super fancy, but it will help you keep track of deadlines, specific requirements of the applications, and it can allow you to share grant status information with the rest of your team. Also, creating a communal folder for applications and attachments and application instructions can help you stay organized. And this could be Google Drive, it could be Dropbox, it could be anything that really is, you know, easy for you. And then we always say to manage expectations and stay positive, because as you all know, grants are really competitive and you may not always win, unfortunately. So if you get a rejection, some foundations will provide feedback if you ask, and you can use that to help with your next application. And keep trying, always keep trying. Another thing Steve says is like grants are like fishing. You want to just keep throwing them out there, getting the lines out there. So then get out there and let people know what you're looking for. So let people know that you're trying to apply for grants, what you're looking for funding for, so they can share opportunities as they arise. A lot of people are like, oh, did you hear about this grant? Did you hear about that grant? So they can really bring things to the table for you, which could be really helpful. You have like an advocacy group around you. Also, let your board know what you need so that they can help you reach your goals. And if you don't have a board, forming one can help you create a support system for the future of your organization. And lastly, always remember to apply to opportunities annually. So if you get a yes from a funder and it's possible, they might want to continue to fund your organization. So continuing to always get those applications in, putting those on your submission schedule every year so that you remember when the deadlines are. And if you get a no, that's okay. You can seek feedback and still continue to apply each year. Some funders like to see people continuing to apply and seeing how they've grown and advanced. So just because you got a no once doesn't mean it's a no forever.
Amanda.
And I'll turn it to Brianna.
Oh, okay. And I was actually going to add something to what you just said, sort of for larger organizations. An issue that I've run into before is not having the whole organization understand the importance of grants. And then, you know, especially with programmatic grants, when you're speaking to different program directors and saying, you know, what would be your objectives? What would be your measurable outcomes? And you know, these are often people who are very enmeshed in their programs. They don't have a lot of time to do writing. They don't have a lot of time for emails. So if they don't understand the importance of really thinking about these questions, then it can hurt the grant. So I think it's really great if there's sort of an organizational culture of grant writing and everyone understands that it's going to be part of their job.
It's a really good point. Thank you, Brianna.
Sure. Okay, so research, I usually do most of the research. We usually start our opportunities with organizations by doing a comprehensive funder search for them. We have a meeting where we hear about all the things that you're trying to fund, whether that's programmatic, general operating support, a capital project, whatever it is. And then we come up with this report. And one of the first places I always go to is the foundation directory online, which has recently been merged with Candid. Maybe it's been a couple of years now. And we have the professional version. There is a free version. And then I think there are some libraries. I probably should have looked into the Ithaca area, the libraries that offer the full version that you can use. And I believe the New York Public Library, which everyone has access to nowadays, also has it. And this has over 90,000 private foundations on there, and you can search by geographic regions, the populations they serve, the things they're interested in funding, and it connects right to their 990s and all of those things. So that's really the primary place that we go first. Grantstation.com is another site that has a great, I think it's like weekly or bi-weekly newsletter that has about 10 opportunities, and it's national. So sometimes there's some that work and sometimes there aren't, but with a quick browse, I usually find something about every month. Grants.gov, that's the federal portal. It actually is user-friendly for searching for grants. You can, right on the side, you can limit to what department you're interested in and see all the opportunities that are open. And then Grants Gateway is the state one. You can also search that. And there's also usually only about like 5 pages of listings. So sometimes I just read them all because sometimes their search function isn't that great. There's Grants Action News, which is from the New York State Assembly. This is monthly. It's a monthly newsletter you can sign up for. That probably has about 10 opportunities. Grants Watch, this is another portal that you can sign up for. I think it's only about $60 a month or a year. I know it's one of the fairly cheaper ones. The Chronicle of Philanthropy, that always has good listings. Again, that's a subscription. And then the specific government agencies, particularly counties, a lot of these aren't captured in Grants Gateway anymore. So you really have to think about who's specific to the work you're doing. And then many of them have their own newsletters, like the DEC, the Department of Environmental Conservation, or even for the federal ones, checking the USDA regularly. A lot of these grants are on an annual schedule. So once you've established the schedule, you know what to look out for. It looks like there's some good comments in the chat too about local funders and other things. So that's great. And then there's networking organizations. So there's the Association of Fundraising Professionals, Grant Professionals Association, and there's a lot of LinkedIn groups that are always passing back and forth information about different opportunities. And then we have our own little newsletter that I think we have usually about like 4 or 5 opportunities a month. So you can sign up there. That's all we send. Once a month, a listing. You won't get signed up to other stuff, I promise you. Okay, you can go to the next one, please. So I'm just going to briefly go down the elements of a strong proposal. And you'll find these in probably most applications. So the first is the organizational background and the history. And once you've established this, it's great because you can come up with language that everyone agrees on, and you can pretty much use it over and over, just updating it every year and tweaking it to fit word counts and things like that. But that's kind of an easy one that you still want to be captivating. You want to really highlight the things that make you unique. The service area and population. This is really important. A lot of times when we go into grant writing, we assume, we don't even realize we're assuming, but we assume everyone knows us and what we do in some ways. And that's why sometimes it's nice to have an outside consultant who doesn't know anything about you, because they can see these holes. So even just saying, for some of these grants that are national, saying, oh, I'm in Tompkins County, New York, like people might not know it's New York. You have to assume people don't know anything. They don't know anything about what it's like in Tompkins County or whatever town you're in. So it's really important to paint that information. Your finances they're going to ask about. So that's always good to make sure you're up to date on your audits, your 990s, and you have all those things. The administration, they'll want to know about your executive leadership. And that's another thing that you can kind of have pre-prepared, usually a little bio on everyone. Programs. Of course, it's good to keep a short bullet list so you can include that, or more in depth if you're asking for requests for specific programs. Any collaborations you do with different groups, and then documenting impact. This is really one of the key things. Most grants ask for it explicitly, but not all do. And that's definitely going to push you above the others if you have an actual way to measure your impact. And you can show, not if it's a new program, but if you can show the impact you've had before. I find a lot of people will implement pre and post surveys for a program. It's a real easy thing to do, especially now with Google Forms. And just saying that you're going to do those surveys and you're expecting, 80% change their attitude about so-and-so, 80% whatever. Just being able to give those hard numbers is really important to a funder. Then the budgets, you want to make sure they're as detailed as you can provide. You know, people don't want to see 3 lines. They really want to understand that you've thought about this. And then basically a strategy for if you don't win the grant, you know, getting feedback from the grantor, if that's possible. Sometimes it's not, especially for big corporate ones. If it's worth it to go again, you know, did you spend 40 hours on it and only 2% got funded? Maybe it's not worth it. So those are things you have to think about.
And one thing I want to add, Brianna, is there was a question, how long should a grant application proposal be? And I feel like in general, they kind of tell you within the application, like there's a lot of word limits, things like that. But do you have any advice on, you know, how long something should be?
I agree with that. There are some smaller foundations who don't give any guidance on that. And I don't think you want to do anything more than 3 to 5 pages. If they're looking for something crazy, you know, they'll let you know.
Thank you.
All right, next slide, please. Yep. So this is kind of just elaborating on the same thing, you know, develop a cohesive argument for why it's needed. That need statement is so important. And there are a lot of places that you can pull statistics from about need, whether that's locally, you know, using the US Census Bureau, New York State report cards, or just Googling a question and making sure that you find some real research articles or some really good sources about the problem. What makes your projects different? That's definitely something you want to think about. What will you add to the community? And how is your program inclusive and promoting diversity? And this last one is definitely really being prioritized in grant applications, whether it's state, federal, or local. So if your program isn't inclusive and promoting diversity, then that's something that you really might want to think about changing. And accessibility too, I would add to that. Okay, and then this just kind of reiterates what I've been saying. You want to ask for something concrete and well-defined. You do not want to be wishy-washy here. You want to be able to summarize it in 2 lines. The budget should always match the narrative. You want to make sure that whatever you have in your line items is, you know, it's clear in the narrative why you need that. The funder should have a solid idea of what it'll be paying for. It's sort of the same thing. Make sure your mission statement is clear and relevant to the work you are currently doing. That's a really good one. I actually have an organization who keeps changing their mission statement and changing what they're doing. And that can certainly be a red flag. So that's important. The timeline. Clearly lay out your execution plan. Again, this is another thing that the funders will see, that you have put real thought into this, that you know that you can accomplish it. Include how the project will be sustained after grant funds are expended. This is always a really tough one. I know that for everyone. It's time to get creative. You know, if you're only going to be able to if you're going to look for more grants, yes, you can say that, but maybe you can talk about some other creative fundraising ideas, how successful you've been with grant writing. Yeah, there's a number of ways to try to tackle that positively. And then explain how you are setting goals and tracking progress. And that goes back to the surveys I was talking about, and just showing that you are evaluating things, and that you're willing to change things if they don't work, that you are not stuck to specific program. All right, is this you or me, Amanda?
I think we're sharing this because I think you know a little bit more about some of them. But the Grantsmanship Center, I actually did their essential grants program, and it was great. It's a little, you know, you do have to commit about 3 full days to the program, but it was a great, you know, kind of, it's like an entry level program that I think really covers everything. They also offer, like, after the fact, after it's over, you can actually send in proposals that you've written for them to review and provide feedback. They actually give you free access to GrantStation for about 6 months for research. So it was a great program. And there's also this book, and I know this was one of the questions that someone had, is there a book? Brianna's holding it up. And the cost of the program, I don't know what it is right now. You might have to go and look online. It is an investment, I know that, but there's also, you can go to grantstation.com. Some of the webinars are free. I know Candid also does have some free grant writing resources that, there's different webinars, different sort of like training programs that you can take on there. Steve, were you going to say something?
Yeah, just on the cost of grantsmanship, it as you implied, it's not cheap. It's I think it depends on whether you're taking it virtually or in person, but it can be between $800 and $1,100. But it's what I took when I launched my grant writing change of careers, and very comprehensive, very intensive, and it really gets the job done. So I strongly, advise doing something like that if you're new to grant writing. There's also 2 and 3 day more specific versions that are tailored to federal grant seeking and some other more niche oriented things. So again, worth it if you're not already immersed in grant writing.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, and there are free training resources on things like Candid or grantstation.com that you can, I think, are definitely helpful in your endeavors for grant writing. There's also the Foundation Center, which I think, Brianna, you have a little bit more familiarity with.
I haven't used, actually, maybe I have. So that's through the foundation directory online, and they also do a newsletter with some opportunities, and they do have training webinars on the bottom of them. And I think I did do one actually about that horrible question about sustaining it after the funding is used up. And it was free. I don't know if they're all free, but if you sign up for the newsletter, sometimes there are some interesting opportunities that might help you.
That's great. And then there is the Grant Professionals of Western New York and Finger Lakes, the Grant Professionals Association, and then many community colleges have classes that you can take. I think we accidentally went to your desktop, Gloria. And we're a resource, so please, help us help you. We can come, talk to us. What are your needs, and how can we help you? And Laura, if you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Can you go back one more? Thanks. Yeah, there we go. Go ahead. It's okay. So we want to know what your fundraising needs are. We want to know what resources you need. We already mentioned our free newsletters. So every first of the month, you'll get a bunch of opportunities delivered to your inbox. And we also have free consultations on grant needs. So if you ever want to talk about your organization, or, if we could be of help for you, or if there are resources that we know of in the community that can help you, we're more than happy to share with you. So you could just email and set up, and our emails are in the next contact us section, but you can always email us and set up a consultation via Zoom, via phone. We also have drop-in office hours Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So you could just email me and let me know that you want to meet at the office. Happy to meet you there. Our office is 120 West State Street, Suite 204. So we're right across from the State Theater. And we also are offering a free workshop on Thursday, January 19th at the Tompkins County Public Library. And this is through the Human Services Coalition. It is a 3-hour workshop, so it's from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Myself, Steve, and Brianna will be there, and we're encouraging you all to bring your proposals that you're working on, because we'll do a little, mini presentation to give you some grant writing tips. And then after that, we'll break out into groups to kind of workshop your proposals and help you kind of elevate them to the next level. Because I know that there were some questions about how do I kind of compete with other organizations who have grant writers on staff and other resources. So we want to help you get there too, and help established organizations really craft and refine their proposals. So if you go to the next page, Gloria, this is our contact.
So I was actually trying to find the link for them to register for the for that workshop. That's why my email popped up.
Oh, okay.
But do you have the link
Yes.
offhand that you can?
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Yep, and that's a free workshop. So we'd love to have you there. I know that there are limited spots. So if you want to come, I would sign up soon.
Okay.
And then these are our emails. This is our website. If you go to the contact page on the left-hand side, that's where you can sign up for the newsletter. And you're more than welcome to email us with any questions, anything you need. But I think from here, we'll open it up to Q&A.
Perfect. Okay, so let me stop sharing.
I'd also like to make a few sort of general comments. At a public charity like a community foundation or United Way, we're raising money to run the operations of the foundation as well as to distribute grants and partner with you. And a couple of things from that perspective. This is not going to fit every single funder, but the kind of culture of the funding that we're trying to set up is that we conceive of grant seeking and grant making as a relationship, not a transaction.
Right.
And the worst thing you can do is to conceive of us as an ATM that you're running up to, trying to poke in numbers and get the magic code that money spits out and they run away with money. No, we are as interested in what you're doing as you are, and we want to learn with you. And that means we are cognizant of the power dynamics and imbalance that's part of the grant seeking and grant making process. At the same time, we want to learn with you and understand your successes and your surprises and challenges, both positive and negative. So I would encourage you to develop ongoing relationships outside of grant cycles with the work that we do. Get to know us, invite us to your activities, help us understand what you're doing, help us understand what's challenging about that. One thing we have done since the pandemic and will continue to do is provide general operating unrestricted support. So for us, our grants are not buying a particular thing or process or program. You are the experts in that. We want to support you in your work and understand the impact that you have. That's not true for every funder. Some funders did that in the early part of the pandemic and have reverted to programmatic or project-based funding, and some funders haven't. So I guess I would underline the idea of, in that relationship part of the work, understand us, help us understand you, develop relationships, and we try to really honor and respect that you are the experts in what you're doing. And when we ask questions, it's to further understanding, not to judge or assess what you're doing. And the last thing I've mentioned is that in all of our grant cycle review processes, we do not view our role at all as judging or assessing your expertise in writing a grant, right? We're not getting out a red pencil and deciding this is a well-written grant, and that's not. We want to understand what you want to achieve, the impact you want to have, how you understand needs, how you're collaborating with other actors in the community, and what are you doing to advance diversity, equity, inclusion, and racial justice in our community. That's what we're interested in. So we read a lot of grants. We read really beautifully written grants that do not inspire us, that don't get funded. We read grants that we're like, okay, if you're applying to another entity or organization, you got to step up your game and make your grant application, the grammar better, the math better, but we'll fund you because we understand what you're doing. And that's part of our role as a community embedded, relationship seeking organization. You're not going to get that from every single funder, but I want you to understand that part of your work is to understand your funder and understand where your funder's coming from organizationally, politically, socially.
And with that, my friends, that is why George Ferrari is our CEO.
Was wondering why I got this job, but let's open it up for questions and comments and thoughts.
Yeah.
Make sure
so we'd like to thank Choice Words for being with us today. Just really quickly before we get into the Q&A, if you check the chat, You'll see that there are a few different links, live links that I've included. One of them is a link to this recording, as well as archived recordings of all of our Let's Talk conversations. This one in particular will be uploaded later on today, along with the PowerPoint presentation. So those would be some really great resources for you. You can subscribe to our newsletters. There's a link there. Our granting opportunities, it's right on our webpage. There's that link. And then a few different surveys that we have listed. If you were an applicant, we are looking for your feedback. We want to know what worked for you, what challenges there were, what we did really well, and what we need to completely take out of the process. As well, if you were a review team member, same thing. We want to know what worked. We want to know how we can do better. So those are the two links there. And then further down is our community engagement survey. Part of my role as the community engagement officer is to create a partnership, a collaboration with our community. So bringing the community into the community foundation and bringing the community foundation into the community. And that is building collaborations and really focusing on intentional engagement. So if you click that survey, you will help us design this strategy. And this is something that I'm going to be working on for the first quarter of the year. So I'm really interested in hearing about some things that you're interested in seeing us doing and how we can better engage you. So with that, I will go ahead and read some of the questions that were brought to us, sent in to us during your registration. And if it has been answered already, Amanda and team, maybe just tell me to move on to the next question because it has already been answered. But in the meanwhile, if you do have additional questions, please write them in the chat. And then once we get through the questions that were already submitted, I will read through those questions as well. Okay, so this first one, and I'm just going to read them verbatim. This first one, I'm a grant administrator and run workshops on grant writing, but it's all my experiences over the past 30 years. I have never taken a grant writing workshop myself, and I also am trying to find more grant money for some of our programs. So searching for grants will also be useful. So I guess this is more of a comment, also going into the need for this workshop. So again, thank you, Choice Words team. Here's another question. Let's see. Okay, this question.
Oh, I was just thinking of one thing I didn't actually mention about the search for grants that might also be helpful. A lot of times people will point out similar organizations to us and say, well, they're getting all this funding from so-and-so and so-and-so. And there actually is a function in Foundation Directory where you can search that organization and see everyone who's funding them. So I don't know if that's considered, I don't know, backhanded or whatever, but I don't, it's worth it to try. It's not like you're stealing anything from them. You're either going to get a yes or a no, but that's another thing to know.
Got it.
Well, and as they say, all's fair in love and grant writing. So another little tidbit to point out is that when you're in the sea of foundations, the 90,000 foundations in the Foundation Directory online, keyword searches, anything that helps sort it out from the wheat from the chaff, and geographic coverage is very important. But another key trick is to not include foundations that don't accept unsolicited proposals, because you'll get literally hundreds of hits that you cannot apply to, and it's very frustrating to see all that money out there that may be perfect for your organization and you can't apply to it. The only way you can apply is if you're invited in. So we usually click that button that excludes those foundations.
Perfect. Okay, so this next question, how to find a grant for the project program are there listservs / organizations to join that disseminate that information? I think you guys covered that. It's in the PowerPoint, correct?
Mhm.
Yes, that was in the PowerPoint. And something we also didn't mention is like, honestly, Google can be really helpful. If you go to like the 3rd page of Google, like if you Google what you're looking for, a lot of times there's even, websites that have a list of different opportunities that you can apply for. So if you have something like very specific that you're looking for, sometimes Google can actually be very helpful.
Next, how long should a grant application / proposal be? And I think you talked about that a
Yes.
little bit as well. Okay, perfect.
We did, and the other point is increasingly foundations and community foundations are going to character count restricted answers on their questions. So oftentimes we feel like we're writing on the back of a postage stamp. The writing has to be very concise, very, very almost intense, but those character counts are very limiting. Some ways you just have to figure out how to answer that important question with 250 words.
Yeah.
Whereas back in the old days, you'd have 20 pages.
Yeah.
So,
And another thing to remember is that just because it's a longer answer doesn't mean the content is better.
right, short is hard. It's hard to do short.
Right.
Yeah.
This next question is about that particular book, but I believe in the chat, we posted the name of the book there. This next
Could you
one,
repeat the name one more time?
Yep, it's grantsmanship, program planning and proposal writing by Norton J. Kiritz, Kiritz.
so we have another question where their interest is primarily arts and justice, but they're open to other grants. They want to know, they already know about many local grants and they'd love to learn about regional and national grants and resources to find them. And that was also in your PowerPoint and in your presentation, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, I don't think we specified arts and justice organizations, but we often include opportunities about arts and justice in our newsletter. So if you sign up, there's some things that pop up about that.
Okay, so this next one is really relevant to our smaller grassroots organizations that are popping up. How to assist low-budget grassroots organizations with no previous grant experience who cannot compete with polished and well-funded organizations, especially those without excellent writers and databases. And I know you covered this with the, I forget what it's called, the
The small and emerging nonprofit grant program, which we started 3 years ago specifically to try to address that vexing problem, which is the smaller, newer nonprofits and charities that are out there trying to do a lot with very little resources. We look to align them with relatively newer grant writers with less experience, but talent and an interest in working with the nonprofit community, along with these smaller nonprofits. And we were able to offer a somewhat discounted rate for our services. But the whole idea behind it is that we could help them. Again, I'm a fishing person, so I fish and I have fishing metaphors. So we do the help them learn how to fish, do some research, identify the funders that are available for their specific needs, help create some boilerplate language so they could do LOIs to a number of foundations relatively efficiently. And Amanda was the first writer in that program and really took it on and made it her own. And we've served, I don't know, 10, 15 small nonprofits in that way very well. And I think that was our effort to address that segment of the of that segment, and it's been effective. But I don't think I think more needs to be done to help small and emerging nonprofits.
So what is the criteria to be able to apply? And is there an application process? What do you guys look at?
The small and emerging program,
Correct.
Amanda, you want to take that?
Yeah, so it's specifically for organizations with operating budgets under $100,000. And
Okay.
basically it's similar to, an intake for a larger nonprofit or municipality. We set up a phone call, we kind of talk to you about your priorities, your goals, and how we might be able to help you. And we typically work about 12 hours a month for those organizations because, it's sometimes we feel like they don't really need as many hours as like a larger organization might need. So the 12 hours seems to be, we get a lot done in those 12 hours. And it seems as if, we've seen people come in that have never applied for a grant before. We help them develop language, we help them develop budgets, and they really, grow and blossom into these like beautiful organizations. So it's been really cool to see that happen. And I know that Gloria, like this came up a lot in the grant review process because it was very much like seeing these different writing styles. And I think in general, also just having someone read it over and just saying, I'm seeing this, I think you can move this here. It could be like really helpful. And it doesn't have to be an expert. It can be just anyone in your circle that could read it over and provide some feedback.
And then me, I'm always looking out for my mission-driven organizations, and I'm really big on offering like free resources, if not like deeply discounted. What realistically are your your rates, or if you could give us like a roundabout range, how much of a discount would these smaller organizations get?
Well, essentially, it's again, it's not top secret. It's $600 a month.
Okay.
And I know even that's a lift, but we have to pay our people too. The part of what Amanda also has done is not just limited to grant applications and research, but expanded using her marketing knowledge to, developing GoFundMe campaigns, website development and language, even some public relations help to help get the, these embryonic organizations kind of established. And,
So it's like an all-encompassing program.
yeah,
think
and
so,
she, she God bless her sometimes. she works a lot with these folks. Yeah.
Sometimes the grants are not the best answer for some of them. It's like
Right.
sometimes it makes more sense to do some kind of other like donor development or, other kind of like creative outlet for getting that funding to come in. And so it's really like a holistic look at everything and working with what each person needs, I think.
Right. Great. Thank you for that. This next question is more of an individual question. This person is looking to obtain a position as a grant writer, and they're looking for training, like professional grant writing training. Do you have any recommendations or resources that you can provide?
I think we've addressed that with the Grantsmanship Training Center, which again requires some upfront investment. But I think there are other opportunities in the educational sphere. Probably the community colleges have grant writing training. Yeah, I think there are a few others, but I'm not that familiar with them.
Great, thank you for that. That was the last question that we had sent to us with advanced registration. So I'm just going to run through some chat questions if there are any. And then I'd also ask you to, if you have questions, start to write them in the chat. So I'm just going to scroll through.
Lori, as you're doing that, let me also mention a couple of other resources here that many people have had access to. And I see that the HSC workshop opportunity might be fully registered. So we'll find out more from HSC about what that is happening there. But they often offer additional resources for grant writing skill development, along with the Chamber of Commerce sometimes does this as well. And there is a local chapter of AFP, which stands for the Association of Fundraising Professionals. So in a more holistic kind of approach, as you're thinking about your entire revenue strategy, about individual donors, as well as other development activity and grant seeking, I'd encourage you to take a look at AFP Finger Lakes. That's the name of the chapter that provides monthly training resources for folks doing development. And, we're trying to promote also a culture of collaboration and not competition. So as you're thinking about the work you're doing, there might be a collaborative grant effort where you might be the lead organization or someone else might be, but you could be part of another organization's application in an important kind of powerful way. So thinking about how to do that could be very advantageous to you as well. So we're not just having a Hunger Games kind of approach to what we're doing, but the more you can strategically think about what makes sense without changing your mission every day. I think, Brianna, you mentioned that. We call that pretzeling. We can tell when you're turning yourself into a pretzel and you're writing a grant for something that isn't core or central to what you're doing. And that never goes well. So don't pretzel.
That's great. I've never heard that, but that really encapsulates what I see a lot of my clients doing. That's great.
Yeah, or chasing the money. It's like, oh, there's a great grant program out there for tending cats, and you're a human service organization. Let's create a new program because there's a grant for it.
Right.
That always ends up costing you more. And seek grants that support what you already do.
And typically make the cats very unhappy too.
Yeah, you got to be a cat lover. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we do have a couple more questions, and we may run maybe 2 or 3 minutes over, but by all means, if you need to hop off at 1 p.m., please do that. Following up on George's comment, it says, you mentioned the importance of concrete, well-defined proposals. How might this impact an application for general operating expenses?
I think that's where it's really important for you to document the need, not the want. There are a lot of passion projects in our community. We're a community full of people who don't settle for the status quo, who often believe that, you're the smartest person in the room and you want this to happen and you're going to move heaven and earth to make it happen. It has to be documented or tied to some needs assessment. What are the data that show that this is a need and what impact you want to have? We talk a lot as a funder about the difference between outputs and outcomes. Outputs are what you do, outcomes are how you change.
Yeah.
And really, as you talk about general operating support, your organization should talk much more about the outcomes that you achieve.
Right. Thanks, George. Do grant makers like to see organizational budgets that are completely balanced, or is it okay to have a slight surplus or slight deficit in revenue as part of your application?
I did answer this in the chat briefly, but I'll just reiterate it in case people aren't seeing it. And I would say it's okay to have a slight one, but the funders really want to see that you're financially stable. So a big deficit is a big red flag. And so as balanced as it can be is really the best.
And then how about a surplus?
I don't think a surplus necessarily disqualifies you because it shows you're a good steward of the organization's funds. You can have surpluses on one side of your budget. I mean, a surplus, but you may have programmatic deficits in the internal budgets within the budget. And if you can demonstrate that oftentimes a funder is looking for an investment that'll lead to more people being helped or more of the charitable purpose being expanded. If you're doing well in your work, you can be asking foundations for additional funding so you can do more of the good work in the community. So all those are valid questions, but as Brianna pointed out, they do want to see that you're good stewards of their money and good, because the money they are giving to you is competitively sought. And so they'll have 10 applications for every 5 they fund. So they want to really see that it's going to a good purpose and that you'll be good stewards of that investment, if you will.
Perfect.
I also just want to add that I know it's particularly hard for smaller organizations to kind of create like a more balanced budget. And I want to just mention in kind. It's really important to, like, if you have volunteers, like that's worth money and then you should have that in your budget. And also, you know, if people are letting you use equipment, if someone's letting you use a space for free or for a very discounted cost, like you always want to document that in your budget because that is money. So that's important.
Thank you. This next question comes from my good friend Norbert at the Ithaca Free Clinic, who I have to say that I actually went there for service when I was unemployed and uninsured. So next question is, are there any roundabout ways to catch the attention of a foundation that is by invitation only?
I think Brianna answered that in part. You know, we talk about on foundation directory and on websites, we can determine who's on the board, who the staff are. It's perfectly okay to reach out to them and say, you know, listen, we do the thing you fund. Why don't you come over and visit sometime, do a site visit? But there's also other ways that, in particular, the Poughkeepsie Farm Project early on when we were writing for them, they hung a big banner out front about their organization, you know, some event happening that weekend, and a board member of a major foundation out of New York City drove by, realized that they were perfect for them, and ended up sending him a check for $100,000. That's not going to happen every day,
Right.
but it showed that we always say that PR nourishes fundraising. So oftentimes any kind of outreach, any kind of sharing of good news with the community through newspapers, websites, you know, social media posts, puts you in the, you know, the Google sphere. So when a funder is thinking about funding you, they look you up, as you would expect. And so having good news out there, or, you know, top of the SEO search, helps you remain fresh, engaged, and looking like a good bet for the foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also where networking comes in. I mean, if you, I think it's worth it to at least reach out and get information, or maybe ask for like an informational interview. I mean, the worst that they can say is, you know, no, not at this time, or, you know, we're not soliciting anyone. Let's see, resources for grant writing. We have a link that Amanda provided, a few different resources for grant writing. Let's see what else. You mentioned to include in the budget volunteer hours. That is that assigned a dollar figure? Can you expand on what it looks like in the budget?
It is. So you could go, it is now at $29.95 per hour for a volunteer. So you would, you know, put in on the budget line volunteer hours, and then you would add up how many hours your volunteers are working, you know. And I know with small organizations, like that could be a part-time job for someone that is, you know, they're doing that many hours. And so that's all, you know, can be considered paid. So yeah, $29.95.
Perfect. Okay, well, that wraps us up. We are now at 1:06. I'm sorry, we are 6 minutes over, but I included my email address. It's in the chat. So if you have additional questions, I can get those questions over to the Choice Words team and get those answers to you. But we look forward to engaging with you, seeing you at our future Let's Talks. We want to see lots of signups for our newsletter. That link is also in there. Feel free to reach out to Choice Words, you know, on your own, individually. Thank you all so much for being here this afternoon. We enjoyed being here with you and spending this time with you. And again, Choice Words, thank you for being here and imparting all of this great knowledge. We got lots of thank yous in the chat about how amazing you guys are. Great, great, great information. Again, I just want to say that the link to this video, as well as the link to the PowerPoint, will be up on our website shortly. So enjoy the remainder of your afternoon. I'm not sure if it's sunny outside because my blinds are closed, but enjoy the weather and enjoy the remainder of your week. Take good care,
You
everyone.
all, folks.
Thank
Very
you,
nice
everyone.
meeting you.
Thank you.
Again, thanks for joining.